Thank you. Okay, you should see my screen here shortly, maybe.
Yep.
There we go. Okay. So welcome to the November 2023 TDXS meeting. I'm Doug, W9LCQ. I'm the club secretary. Got a few quick agenda items before we get into the program. Item number one, officers. We need more officers. I know we say this every month, but look at the current roster of officers.
The one guys don't all speak up at once.
Yeah, president is still open after, was it, Roby, 2 or 3 years?
2 or 3, yeah.
Gerald,
Like-
to continue on.
I don't hear a pilot.
Crickets.
Well, I have
Come
a
on.
maybe we could combine the office of president and secretary.
Well, you know, that's a good idea, except it's not legal in Texas, at least for a
Well-
corporation.
Well, we should not be that sort of corporation, but all right.
Yeah, for the tax-free or corporations, you can't have the president and secretary be the same person.
So
That
I know
is
we're
true.
tax free, but what do we what would we be taxed on?
Well, I sort of wonder about that. Is that maybe we just need to be become an associate, a loose association without any officers or anything.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? So, you know, I haven't been involved with TDXS for a long time, but one thing might be helpful is to come up with a list of full members who have not been president and circulate that around. I mean, this is not, I've done every job in the TDXS over the years, and including the president, and it's not like a life and death situation. So why don't you just find out? I mean, what's the big deal? So why don't you circulate a list around, or at least publicize it somehow or another, of who hasn't done it, who's a full member who hasn't done it.
Like a wall of shame.
Yeah.
Well, come on, it's not a come on. I mean, what's the big deal?
You know, I've been in this club since 2006, and
You young whippersnapper.
Yeah.
and I've been an officer for all but about 3 years of that time period since then. So
Bada bing.
And a fun job you're doing as well.
yeah, I can't say no. That's the problem. Anyway, just bringing that up again. So I guess we'll just putter along here as we are. Okay, next item is our next meeting is December. Is Tracy G in person and on Zoom. Looking for program ideas. We've had a few suggestions, but just anybody got something they want to talk about and or lead a discussion about?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
This might be relevant to that. So I spent a week in Houston, and I told a bunch of guys I ultimately ended up talking to that I was going to bring my 2-meter radio to town specifically so I could get on the 3696 machine. And except for finally on, I guess it was on Friday or something, K5WA, I could hear him very scratchy in the background. So there are all these guys, and not a single person responded to my 50-watt 5/8 wave mobile whip all over the city of Houston, transmitting. Every time I get in the car, I'd say K2TNO Mobile. Nothing. Zippo. So let me suggest that so for instance, I'm down here in the East Coast of North Carolina in the real boondocks, and they have a couple of radio clubs, and I've gotten involved in only one of them. But one of the things I noticed is the number of members down here who have calls like KJ4 TDXS and stuff like that, who've only been licensed briefly. Well, one of the things that they do, I actually keep a little notebook in the car, and because I don't know any of these people yet. And so there are 20, 30 people who log in who have calls who don't have stacked 4-element 40s at 150 feet, and they don't have 7 Alpha 77 two-holers, okay? But you know what? They are the future of these radio clubs. So let me make a suggestion. You guys are all off on 440 or whatever, and only talk when somebody you know is on. Let me give you a piece of free advice, folks. Get back on 2 meters and try to get that to 3696 site active again, and try to get people, when some KO4, KO5, XXZ calls in, don't just diss the guy because he's a newbie. That's the future of your radio club. And with that little piece, I will stop.
That's true.
Even out in the country, I can hit repeaters 30 miles away. Nobody answers.
2 meters isn't
Very
used like it
rarely.
was. 2 meters isn't used as much as it used to be, and the only one that I ever hear any activity on is the V-Mark repeater.
Yeah, 3494.
Well, I got a great idea, guys. I was just on there for 1 week, 8 days of transmitting on the 3696 machine. And every time I keyed it up, it came right back to me, and nobody ever answered. Not one of you or anybody, except finally one day, Bob Evans did. Well, come on, get on there and talk. If you don't want to do it just because you don't want to talk, fine, but do it because you want to try to attract somebody to hear you. You get on, you're 30 miles away, you call and you say, well, gee, there's nobody there. Well, how about the guy who's 25 miles away, to whom you could have at least said something? Get with the rope, get with the program here, folks.
Okay.
And that's not just anybody's opinion. That is my opinion.
Whoa.
We'll put an underline on that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. I just got the Tracy G schedules back for 2024, and basically I asked for the same dates to the third Thursday of specific months, and they gave us all those picks. So we have the third Thursday for February, April, August, October, and December.
Fill this up a little bit better.
No, all I need to do is fill them. Okay, any other comment before we go into the program?
I want to say thank you to those who sent me articles for the Bullfeet, Bill, and somebody else did, I forgot. Anyway,
I sent you one.
Yeah,
yeah, you sent me one and I sent me one. So
There you go.
I would like to see more people sending me articles for the Bullfeet. Not that I don't ask every month, but it would make it more interesting if I had more of that kind of stuff.
Not hearing you, Rick. Roby.
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that little article I wrote was simply hoping to entice others to write something about their
You're cut out again.
Roby, you got to speak closer to your laptop because your speaker isn't picking up your sound when you lean back.
No, it's there's something wrong with it. It's not, there's no there is no
Audio?
It says network bandwidth is low on your
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah,
Could be.
that's what it sounds like, what it looks like too.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's buffering on Wi-Fi.
Probably need to reconnect.
Let me move on here for just one more item before we go to the program. Aaron, I don't recognize your call. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I got the invite for this. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I got the invite for this meeting from Mark Tyler, Kilo 5 Gulf, Quebec.
Right.
I'm one of his students in CW Ops Academy. So he shared this invite for this meeting with me.
We're sure glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks.
I probably.
So how's your CW coming along?
It's coming, not as well as I would like it, but it's coming along. Been
Well,
working at it.
Welcome to CW, Rick. I'm Bill K2TNO, called Tuna on here on the in the TDXS, but CW is great, and I'm glad that you're picking up on it. Keep at it, dude.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
We also have Joe, W4YDL.
Hey there.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Joe.
Oh, well, I've been a ham since February. And like Aaron, I'm pretty into the into CW. Started learning in April. So that's coming along pretty good. Yeah, Mark K5GQ ended up nominating me into CW Ops and just got a number with them. So yeah, CW's become my favorite mode very quickly.
Great. Yeah, well, we're glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Doug, you got your reverb on?
No, somebody's got their. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's not me. Okay, Ed, are you ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Ed Gerber then, W5GCX, with his program entitled Getting Away from City Noise.
Let's see. So Roby asked me a long time ago, tell me what you did out there. And I started gathering thoughts. You know, this is just a summary, really. Come on, click on it. Of what I got gathered in here. Come on. There it goes. This one's in and you guys all got that, but so just a summary of everything that went on over time, and it's hard to imagine that it's a bunch of years ago, but you know, having lived in the city and dealt with it, all of its growth, and I'm only a block and a half off Westheimer, so there seems to always be something going on. And even I know Alan deals with the same fellow, but the noise can really be bad. But anyway, I had an idea a while back. Well, maybe I can get out from under it if I can set something up somewhere. So my wife and I, we started wandering around on the weekend, and you can find land in Texas. There's always something for sale. The question is, where is it and how far away is it? We even went up.
What's it cost?
Well, one thing at a time, but yeah, it's what it costs now is a lot more than what it was 5 or 6 years ago. But yeah, obviously what it costs is a function of how far away you are from something. And it doesn't matter whether it's Houston or Austin or San Antonio, but when you're out in the boonies, yeah, it's low, but of course you've got to do something to it. And we when the ex-EPO owner had a place up on 71. Before he built the house there, he had a prefab, and he was showing it to us. So we had some ideas that, you know, you can get a prefab. I wouldn't call it a house, a small cottage, and put it somewhere. Of course, you've got to bring in utilities to it. So in my spare time and whenever I could, I looked on some of these sites that I listed here. TXLS.com has land in Texas and also Land of Texas. We went to look at some, and as we all know, when you talk to some of these people, even when they're splitting something up, a lot of them still deal with the attorneys, in quotes. So they still put restrictions on them. So you have to ask a lot of questions. So we looked, and I looked at some property near Brenham, and we looked at some off of 36. Actually, it was off of 36. It was near Kenny. There was a piece right there, but it wasn't that advantageous. And one real estate agent showed us some, one near Brenham, but it was kind of close to 36, on the backside of 36. And there was a big commercial piece there. So that can become dangerous as to what shows up later. And then I ended up dealing with a real estate agent in Round Top. I looked at something, and he showed us a few of them. One of them was, I think it was closer to Ledbetter, which is off of 290, if you're all not familiar with it. And it was being split up, but it had a power line across one of them. As some know, out in the country, when they run the power to the property, you know, the power company just goes in a straight line. They don't worry about putting it on the property line, on the edge of the property line. So yeah, you'd have to do something with it. But he showed us one, and then one of them, part of it was in a ravine that went down in elevation near a creek. So that's not real good. And we were there one probably Sunday. He says, "Let me show you this." So he took us to this property, and let me get rid of this. And we drove down there. Let me find it. And so we drove up to us, and he described it, and he said, "Well, the people next door own it. They used to they've been renting it out. You know, they have quote antique or junk sales a couple of times a year out there, up and down 237, from 290 all the way down almost to LaGrange." So
what town were you in at this point, Ed?
This is Round Top.
Okay, thanks.
It's about 8 miles from town, and you know, the way they have it out in the country, I mean, you may be a ways from the center, but off to one direction is Fayetteville, Mailing. This is Round Top. So there's the property. That's probably after I changed some stuff.
Yeah, I recognize the photo. That's 286 miles southeast of East Jesus, Kansas.
It's an hour and a half from Houston. But anyway, so he showed it to us, and I said, "Well, this is pretty good, because we also have friends that at one point had land further down I-10, and he bought it, so a piece there, and so I had a pretty good idea. Yeah, you got to run power. You got to, if you're not in the city, you got to put in septic. You got to put a water well in so you can start adding the numbers up. But this one already had all of that. So kind of interesting. Of course, I did have a power line running to the house and a power line running in the back, across the back of the property to the property next door, which is actually a venue. They do weddings there and other stuff. So, but I sort of paced it out. So there's the there's the power line going to the house. So that was the first thing that I tackled. To put it, I asked them out there, why can't you put it under the ground? Well, they can, and they did. And then that's just my sketch of the other wire going across. It actually, the power line actually goes up the driveway on the west side, and it feeds my place and then the one next door. And this line went across. They had a pole in between the trees, and then it went across to this Rancho Pillow. So I was kind of curious. I said, "Hey guys, why can't you put it at the back of the property?" Well, they're more than willing to. You just have to pay them. So I got a sketch together, and I got a phone call one day. He said, "Oh, you got a bunch of trucks in the property," and they put in the poles and moved it. So the line goes further down in the driveway on the west of the property towards my property line, and then across, and then back around the east side, back to the same pole that feeds the neighbor. So I got that out of the way.
Ed, question?
Yep.
So is that a what voltage is that? That's a residential, so that's like
Probably
2000 volts or something like that?
Well, I would have thought it'd be 4160. This friend of mine who was an electrical designer thought it was probably at least 6 kV.
Okay.
But it's not what I got in my backyard in Houston, which is 29.9 now, after they redid the area, because they changed the transformer on the side of the garage, and that's what it says on it. So anyway, we got that done. Let me see what this one is. Oh, that's just that was just my sketch to the power company, you know.
I don't see anything right now. Not seeing
Nothing
anything
picture.
right now.
I see it.
Well, good
Good
for
for
you, but we don't.
The black screen with a hatch on it.
Where did I was sharing my desktop.
Why don't you unshare and reshare? There you go.
There you go.
Still a black box and a gray box.
You don't see the picture?
Nah.
Not yet.
I gotta
We see
stop.
a picture. We see a picture, but not the picture you want to show us.
You might close the picture and reopen it.
So you don't see my list here of everything?
Oh yeah, we see that.
Now you've popped up another black box. Now you got a big black box.
Weird.
Let's go to the next picture. That'll work better.
I've not been seeing anything.
So it says you are screen sharing,
Yeah, you're sharing all right.
but that's just the list you're seeing.
Well, there's a couple of black
Well, and there's
boxes.
a couple black boxes. You've done something to start bringing in editing boxes. I'd turn that off and start again.
Okay, let me start again.
So,
Okay.
so while we're doing earn while you learn time in Edville, do you guys have a feel? Is there any change in the technology in the last few years are there still phone poles with pole pigs running into residential areas? Is that still what they do?
Yeah,
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thanks,
I got one of my own right in the backyard.
thanks.
Bill, when I ran my electrical drop, I had the option of going above ground or below ground. And I went below ground with a 6 kV line up to a transformer that's right outside my house.
Okay, so
Is it
I'm at a subdivision that has all buried lines, and which is great. But I was just curious, what's the technology for bringing stuff along?
There we got a
There you
picture.
go, Ed. Go ahead.
Okay, so there you go. So there's how I was operating on. You can see the pond. I had it at the pond, and then well, it was a friend of mine's vertical, and then it died, so I got a different one. But so you can see the pond, and you can see the other line that's on the other side of their property. Okay, so if I close this, so what am I going to do is the question. And well, I put a shed out there, and I like the construction of it, so I basically got a bigger one. And let's see, is this going to open?
Yeah.
There it is.
So that's to hold your KX3.
No, that's so Mama gets me out of one of the bedrooms in the house.
Is that permanent?
So it's called a side lofted barn. The way they did that. So yeah, the door's a little low, but it looks kind of like a lot of the houses out there with the metal roof and everything. So I had them make that one, and they brought that out. And then of course you can see the okay, so now we get to all what's in my brain. I said, okay, what am I going to put out there? How do I get? Okay, there it is. Go away. There it is. So I got, of course, I'm not working anymore. So whatever you can use for your software, you do. And of course, Google had Draw for a while. That's now gone, but you can use LibreOffice too. So I put together a sketch, and I said, okay, well, how am I going to do this thing? I had many more versions of it, but since Google Draw went away, I can't find them anymore. But this is a combination of a lot. So I had to tell the contractor what he was going to do with it, because he gave me a quote for a bare building, and I thought this would be a better deal. And of course, I get exactly what I want. So roughly where we're going to put everything, and where the electrician was going to put the drops. So
Say, Ed, could you minimize it just a little bit so we can see the entire floor plan? That's great. Thanks a lot. Just hold
you
it
can
on
read
like
it.
that while you're talking. I just wanted to see what
Yeah.
you're going to put every place.
Well, yeah, I have, as I said, I had versions with a lot less in there, but I just went through it little by little and said, okay, here, without a lot of this stuff. So the electrician put enough individual outlets so I didn't get in any trouble. So got my 120 and of course 240 for the amp. And I had the contractor build me tables already in there, and then a workbench in the back.
So it's a mere 240 for the amp. So so what'd you do? Sell the 4CX 15,000A water cooled grounded grid amp that you had?
Not me. I actually have a good friend who managed to procure from where he used to work in the lab a Henry 4K Ultra. So he recently put it on the air, and
Wow.
I was telling them, yeah, well, you know, that's a 25 amp circuit and it's not the same, even the same plug as a 20 amp circuit, but, oh, well, I'm not drawing it that hard. I said, yeah, that 4CX 1500. So anyway, yep, there's for my electrical drops and, you know, stuff for the contractor. They actually, he did it a little differently. The air conditioning is behind. I had him put in a, you know, it's a split. It's only the building is only 16 by 24, so it's not a very big air conditioner. There's one of those split units up on the wall, and the other unit is right outside. And I got enough windows. I got light, and my 2 doors. One door so you can bring stuff in and out towards the tower. So that was my working sketch. And then the big question, well, what are you going to do for antennas? Well, it brings up a lot of thinking and a lot of experience for a lot of people. Let me open this one up. So I sat down. I think I might have had Excel at one time, but not anymore. And just put a whole lot of numbers in a spreadsheet. And see if I minimize this, you might not be able to read it, but let's try it anyway.
No, can't read it.
So where are you going with this, Ed? Are these the dimensions of the individual antennas?
Well, if you look across the top, can you read it?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, sure.
Okay, number of elements, length, how many bands, what's the boom turning radius, what's the square footage? Of course, what they're all rated for roughly the same win. How much does it weigh? What does it cost? And then what bands? And then once I got into it, you have to figure out what rotator you need. So
yeah, could you back up one section? What were you planning on? What did you want to establish here? What, you know, how many elements on what tower at what heights and how many stacks? And just give us a feel for where, you know, where are you trying to go with this?
Trying to go with something that works without a whole lot of trouble. I wasn't going to put up 3 or 4 towers. I really wasn't interested in stacking antennas and making more maintenance for myself as I got older, and I can't maintain it anyway. Because of course, the bigger you get, the more it weighs. So
Yeah,
how are you going to deal with it?
right. So what I was driving at was that's fascinating to see. So now you got the building and you got the land. You're going to put up what towers, how many towers at what heights, and what were your target bands? You know, what do you have in mind?
Well, I operate mostly 20 through 10, and in a contest, I'll fool with 40 or 80 with a whatever. Like in Houston, the noise is so bad now I can't hear anything on 80 and almost 40, so I've got to do something else. So I was going to put up a multi-band antenna and put a 40-meter dipole on top of it, which you'll see I haven't gotten to yet.
So the 20-meter antenna would be what? For instance, before we move on, the 20-meter antenna would be what?
Well, that's why I'm looking at all this to see what's out there.
Okay.
So I made a comparison of what everything is, looking at
I got you.
it from a size and a cost, and what does it give you? You can put up just something that's 2 elements. You can put up 3 elements. So I went up and down. I've already had a cubicle quad. They work great, but you better be ready to work on it
Exactly.
at least every year, maybe more. We get storms, you may have to do even more to it. So I'm just comparing what's out in the marketplace. And I know there's a whole lot of sentiment. A lot of people have the fellow up north. But I was just looking and said, okay. So I came down and started looking at some of the optobeams, and I can get 3 elements, and on the higher bands, more than 3 elements on one antenna from 20 to 10. So the Optobeam 11-5 looked like a good antenna. So I read up on what people say on EHAM, and yeah, you can go to a smaller one. There's a 9-element one. Now, of course, he's got even bigger with 40 meters on it, but then it really gets to be a big antenna. So I just was looking for a comparison. And so that's what I decided on.
What's that K factor column for?
That's for the rotator. You got to calculate how much torque you need.
That's a great could you circulate that your spreadsheet? That's a tremendous resource to be able to have people who are looking to see, and they can pick out based upon the rotator and the number of elements and the gain and everything else. That's a great resource you've got there, Ed.
Well, it was it's a lot of us grew up with a pad of paper, but having had to do all this stuff at work all these years, I guess we ended up with spreadsheets.
So is my vertical on there?
Is which?
I've got a vertical back here stuck onto my patio so that the HOA won't see it.
Nope.
Darn.
They were in a good location. It's kind of surprising how like I found that to be out there. It's surprising how good a vertical can work.
Well, I'm close. Remember, guys, I'm close enough to Europe. I can reach over and touch a DL with my finger before calling him on the radio.
Yeah, well.
So stay off my frequency.
So anyway, this was my thinking tool, and yeah, of course, everything's come in this case. DX Engineering's the rep, so I know there's a lot of JK fans out there, but we didn't really see eye to eye when I attempted to ask questions. But anyway, so that's what I settled on. I don't have the 40 meter antenna up yet. So that's the
So what you end up with and why?
What's that?
What did you end up with and why?
Yeah. What'd you settle on?
Here. Close that. I don't have a single picture of it. Oh well.
Well, just tell us what it is.
Yeah, just give us the name of the antenna and how many.
It's an Optobeam 11-5.
And it's
How
how
about
many
number-
elements on?
How about
it's
number
how many
28?
elements on what bands?
There you go.
Wow, that's great.
No traps. I don't know how he does this, because I think he started with the 9 element the 9-5, I'm sorry, the 9-3, 2015 and 10, and he added elements for 17 and 12. He calls it something sleeve that feeds it, but that's the magic, I guess.
So is it single feed line or
Yep,
multi-feed?
it's just one feed line, 20 through 10.
Okay, and so for instance, on 20, how many active elements are there? There's a driven element and what?
It's 3 elements on 20 and 17, and probably 15, and then he starts to call it a 4, 4.5, and maybe more on 10.
And so the spacing, so it's a three, so for starters, it's a 3-element 20, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so there's a zillion 3-element 20s, tribanders or whatever available. So forgetting the trap tribanders for a minute, what have people said about how this untrapped 3-element 20 compares to another 3-element untrapped 20? Is this
Well, they don't.
optimally-
They don't. They just say that generally speaking, if you call him, if you don't get him on the first call, you're going to get him on the second, and that's typically what it is. Of course, my call sign's not a 1x2 or a 2x1, so sometimes you'll get Charlie X-ray or Golf Charlie or something like that. But contrary to working in the city, no. If I have the amp on, they typically come back.
Okay,
No,
so have you had how long have you had it up?
Since last winter, about a year.
And so what do you feed it with? RG8? I mean, RG15 or what?
213.
Like, oh, okay. So how does it? And you rotate it with what? What's the
20
rotator?
Yaesu 2800.
Okay.
Let's see, where was I? So
Sorry, I didn't
So-
mean to interrupt you. This is fascinating. Ed, I'm just, I apologize to everybody if I'm asking too many questions here. I'll stand by. Thanks.
so there's the antennas, and of course, you have to figure everything else out. And of course, you got an electrician. So what are you doing? Oh, okay, here, what's connected? That kind of thing. So I gave him a list, another spreadsheet, nothing. Whoops, there, now you can see it. Nothing magical about it, really. And then, of course, I made some pictures just to think my way through it. Initially, I thought, oh well, I'll be bringing it. Actually, I was looking at an aluminum tower first. Those guys in northern Florida, but going aluminum means it's much bigger than steel. So the base section was a lot bigger, and the whole thing tilts, and I eventually changed directions and said, nah, I'm just going to get a regular tower. I thought, well, I could, if I have to work on it, I can keep it flat to the ground. So yeah, some of you saw me at the Ham Fest with a funny looking device, but I ended up not using it. And my installer wasn't real happy with it, and he was right. I mean, no, you don't want to put any holes in the square, but they use a square boom. And that's the way they adapted to a round. So I did get rid of it.
So Ed, what's the boom length on this thing? I assume it's a full length 20-meter 3-element, basically, right?
Six, I think it's 6.8 meters.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I would have thought it'd been longer than that.
Here, So there's the, okay, there it is, 30. Go back up here. Come on. That's the longest element. Where's the boom? Boom. 19.7 feet.
Really? That's pretty short.
Whereas if you go with the 2 element on 20, as you call it, it's 16.7. So there's really not that much difference. A little bit. Costs more, but weighs more, but not that much. You only go from well, 66 to 99 pounds. So anyway, I know I have a close friend. Oh, 2 element beam will just be good. I said, well, I always had something small, 2 element quad. Now I'm going to put something up bigger. It's maybe the last time I ever put anything up again. So go for it. So anyway, so yeah, I made a bunch of pictures here. As you can see, there's the group of trees. So I measured out where I was going to be and said, okay, if I have to tilt it over and I'm not going to be near it, dipole on top, not yet. So here's the original configuration with the other tower. So a lot of thinking pictures. And then okay, what is
How big is the base? How big is the hole that you made?
Oh, here, I'll get there here. You mean this? Yeah, I'm out of order, but that's okay.
Yeah, how deep?
He went deeper and a little bit bigger. Let me find the cage they sent me.
Was that by an armadillo?
You wish. They actually drilled the thing. There's the base,
Jesus.
the cage coming. My friend undid it here. Here it is when they put it together. Come on. There you go. To go in the ground.
Now, what is that, Ed? Don't go away from the picture. What is that?
That's the rebar that goes in the concrete in the ground.
But how's that relate to the triangular Taj Mahal that you showed us on the previous image?
Oh, that's how they shipped it. You had to assemble it.
Jesus.
That's how it came on the truck.
Was that from Amazon?
Yeah, right. From Tashian in California.
Jesus.
Or it used to be Tri-X. So you got that. And then they made the hole. And here's when the fun began. And Alan didn't warn me. I'm supposed to put QSL cards in there.
That's right. That you're supposed to do that. At least one JT and anything else you want to work.
Darn right.
You mean the S2 that I haven't gotten a card from?
Well, put in what you can put in.
Then you got that. And so there's the tower when it arrived on the flatbed.
Wow. That's great. What is that? Who made it and how tall?
It's a Tashian what does he call it? 70 feet, 4 section.
Is it a crank up?
Yeah, yep.
Thanks.
With here's the oh, this is the tilt assembly.
Is it motorized?
Yep, I had him put a motor on both. There's there's the tilt motor, and then here's the up down.
You chicken.
What's that?
I said, what chicken? What you are such a chicken.
He said you're smart.
Anyway, here's once I unpacked the box that arrived with a rip in the end, I had to do a little counting, make sure nothing got lost. There's the antenna, a whole lot of pieces. There's your boom right there, the square. And then all the lot of hardware.
Is it metric or SAE?
Yeah, he sent a list, and I had to go through it, and a lot of different size screws.
Metric to me.
They're all metric too.
Mhm.
And here's what it looks like. So there you go. That's a pretty good picture of how he put it together. So you can see there's your yeah, there's the 20-meter reflector. There S, I don't know what German is for driven element. With an S, I don't know. And then there's your director for 20. Then you can see the other bands scattered around. Now we put it together, and then there's the place on the boom it goes.
Did you have all those
There's-
locations, the big locations marked ahead for you? Did you have to measure it yourself?
What's that?
All the element locations, were they marked on the booms, or did you have to measure them yourself?
Well, the other side of the story is the original plan was for me and two friends to put it together. But as I put in my summary, two of them had ended up with busted shoulders. One had surgery. So I had to go to plan B. So I was lucky that somebody was in the state, and they did it.
A Mexican guy.
He doesn't like to. He doesn't seem to like his name mentioned much because there's so many people after him. But yeah, you know who
Yeah, I
who
know.
it is.
I know who you're talking about.
So when they I had the fellow who did the groundwork come out, and he's figuring out how he's going to lift it. So figuring out where the center of gravity is. And once he figured that out, so they put the tilt assembly in first. And so there's the lift. Oh, here it is on
How many yards of concrete did it take?
here. I have that picture. Let me see. I've been jumping around a little bit.
It's gotta be 9.
Jack.
9 yards?
I
No.
don't know, I'm just guessing it's 9.
No, it's not that much. Here.
Oh, it's-
I have the Tashian stuff, but he put more than that in. He had, no, not that one. There it is. When I sent him the information from Tashian, this is what he sent back. Now let me see if we can you see it?
Blow it
Not
up if
really,
you
yeah.
can.
Yeah?
Needs to be a little bit zoomed in a little bit more.
Zoom.
12
5
foot
foot
deep.
square.
So he went, Tashian had his size, but he went even bigger. So he squared it off at the top 5 feet. There's the cage, 3 feet, and he minimum of 5 feet. He went, I don't think he went 12 feet. I think he went 9 or 10. So you'd have to calculate it, but they came with some extra wooden stuff. So whatever concrete he didn't use, they went and made a couple of blocks. They said they used them in their construction. And then he came and took them away. So yeah, that's what he did. This local contractor, I got on well, actually a small yellow pages out there and was looking at concrete contractors, and I called around and somebody said, "Oh, call this one. He does that." So this local contractor and somebody he knows from New Ulm who's done a bunch of towers. So that's what's in there, but they never told me. Maybe on the bill he said how much concrete it is, but I got that buried
I
somewhere.
imagine you got about 5 yards, I would guess.
Probably. That's probably what they had in the truck.
Yeah.
This is another big subject. When you get inside, let's see, I was in my building. I showed you that. There's the picture. Users. Come on. Antennas. Just a lot of pictures, and thinking out loud. Yeah, looking to see, okay, if I have to lower this thing, where is it going to sit? So here I had this was with the Heights aluminum tower. You can see how big it is at the base, but I didn't go with that one. And then look at this one. That was just okay. How does everything look out there? Okay, you got your got to put ground wires in, obviously. So I had my building, and I don't think I don't have a sketch of how much distance it is, but I knew how tall it was going to be, so I paced it out about 80 or 90 feet away from the building. I thought I had a picture of that, but let me see. No, not that one. So
it's roughly 80 or 90 feet away from the building and then
Right.
80 or 90 feet in the air. So the total distance of the RG 215 is about 200 180 feet, something like that.
I got a 500-foot roll, and they ran two of them in the conduit. So I have the second already up there for the second antenna. So of course everybody, I don't know if you've seen these prefab things, but here's what it looked like when it showed up. So you got a shell, and oh, here it is. So yeah, I measured it out and put the flags out where I was going to be. So yeah, that's just, you can see the guy who comes around and cuts around the house made me a pathway. So there's the original shed. It's the same kind of construction with the like a barn roof. Of course.
So what's the total? What's the height of the boom when it's on the tower?
I got I got a 20-foot mast with it. So the antenna's a few feet off the tower, and then I got 10 feet plus to I'm sorry, a 20-foot mast, a 10-foot mast. Now I'm thinking out loud. So I can get the dipole 10 foot above the beam. Okay, I gave you the cage, the hole, the cage, concrete tower. I did that, right? Tubing, hardware. Okay, I showed you the diagram. Did that. did that. Oh, okay. So for any of you who have tilt over towers, yeah, you can see how at least how this one does it.
Yeah, so Ed, so that is a what, a 90-foot?
No, it's a seven, it's a, let me look in here. It's a 70-foot Tashian. That's actually
Okay.
68. It's,
Okay,
it's-
and then you've got a
so-
10-foot, 10-foot mast above that, with the rotator in the very top. So the height of the antenna is roughly 80 feet. Is that about right?
No, it's a couple of feet above the top of the tower, so it's probably 70 feet.
Okay.
Because
so
it
you
goes
got-
up to goes up to 68.
Okay, thanks. So it's a 70-foot tower with a 3-element 20 monobeam, 23-element untrapped 20, and then the 15 and the 10s are both 4-element, all interleaved with the 20.
Yeah,
Is that
something
right?
like that.
Okay,
something.
thanks. That's what I was trying to figure out.
So there it is when we got it up. Oops. Go back. So there's your, like you said, there's your rotator. And the mast.
So what's the rotator?
Yaesu 2800.
Sorry, I forgot I asked that before. Thanks a lot, Ed. Didn't mean to interrupt.
And then I think I showed you this one, so
Right.
and then you can see the tower.
So Ed, is it totally freestanding?
Which?
Is it totally freestanding or are there any guides?
Yeah, here. There you go. 2 winches, the concrete.
And can you move up the, can you go up and look at the array? So
Just
what
a
are,
pic-
what are those, are those horizontal, vertical black things? Are those just spreaders?
Yep,
Non-conducting?
some of them are plastic and some of them are metal, depending on whether he's feeding it or not.
Okay, thanks.
Is there a thrust bearing at the top?
Yeah, they've got a truss. Here's my surprise when the installer showed up. Good old COVID. Look at the cable.
What?
What?
That's brand new?
Already galvanized cable already rusting.
It's brand new?
Yep. Oh,
That
about 6
sucks.
months. About 6 months old.
That sucks.
Yeah, I've got the new stainless steel now. I got to get somebody to change it. And then there's the inlet with my conduits coming in.
I got some really good lubricant for cables.
Is that the one in NF7P cells?
It could be the same.
Yeah, I did as much as we could get to, but
Called Prelude 7.
okay, yeah, I think it's the same. So, if I knew that he already made boxes with a copper and everything already, I would have bought that. But a friend
Looks like it's a Guytronics box.
it is.
I knew it.
My friend out there in Carmine has a bunch of them. He said they were throwing them out. So he gave me this, and the installer said, "Yeah, well,
I
he
knew
would
it.
have done it differently." But I've got copper. I'm gonna put copper in there and then ground everything in there and come in.
So Ed, do you have this thing on the air yet?
Oh yeah, I've been on the air since last year.
Oh, I didn't know when this went up. So what's your opinion about this antenna at that height?
I've never had anybody come back to me as quickly as they do, even on phone.
So let me give you
Your
a piece of
accent.
advice. If you had a bigger antenna higher, you'd get them to come back to you before you called them.
Yeah,
They would say, I think that so-and-so is going to call me, and so I'm going to stand. I'm just joking. But seriously, so you think it's been a good antenna and it stayed up all year, is that right?
yeah. I mean, the other option, and I'm not so sure he had it when I bought it, a year and a half ago. But now he's got 40 embedded with it too. I think it's I don't know if it's
Probably a
a 12.
two-element shorter. If it's the same boom, it's a two-element shortened of some sort.
So I think it's a 12-6. There's also a 14, but
It'll definitely be a longer boom. And they'll
well,
be
yeah,
full
then you
size.
go up to 150 pounds for the end.
Yeah.
So,
That's even more.
right.
So this is
So what has been so what's the bottom line is in your opinion? One of the things you were going to talk about was getting out away from the madding crowd. But so there's two reasons for doing that. One is to be able to get out there so you can put up a 70-foot tower with an 11 element multi monobander on it. But how quiet is it out there?
most of the time it is. There are times when you'll hear some stuff like there was some noise on all bands a couple of weeks ago. I think it was right after we had one of these big solar flares. And then when it quieted down, but I've got some activity on one of those poles. I haven't totally figured out what. And of course, once you figure it out, it's another challenge out there because these guys in the country don't know absolutely squat about noise.
Yeah.
The guys in the city know what needs to be done and fixed. The one guy at Centerpoint, but the country linesmen know zip about it.
So one of the ones that I used to deal with, one of the guys dealing with the antenna farm at NR5M when I lived in Houston, and that's hot fence, electric hot fence for cattle ranches and stuff. Have you run into any of those yet?
Well, I mean, if I hear some noise out there, the difference is generally the noise level is 0. So if I get something that's 1, 2, or 3, and you punch on a button, it's going to take it out. In Houston, sometimes I'm dealing with it where it's S7,
right,
S9. Now, granted, I bought a new radio in Houston, and a new radio is way, way more sophisticated than a 25-year-old one. So
yeah.
you can.
So just a FYI, so hot fence pulses. It's not constant noise. It's hot. It pulses. That's one of the easy ways to diagnose a hot fence at a ranch.
Well, most of the property around where I am is for hay. Now, they're across the street in a couple of directions. Yeah, some people have cows. You may have a hot fence, but I'm hundreds of feet away from that. Whereas in Houston, yeah.
As far as a hot fence it can be a long way, just like it's just like a power pole noise. It can go a remarkable distance. But if it's not pulsing it, that's not it. I'm just mentioning it.
So I mean, this is my future project to get everything grounded in that Guytronics box. But and then here's the current operating bench. I'm not done with it yet, so I've got everything. It may look different to some people, but my goal was keep everything above so I don't have to climb underneath the table when I have to wire something. So some people think it's a little odd, but yeah, my ground wires and everything is behind the radio, not below it. And the power is above too, so I can get, you can get to it when you've got to do something. So that's with the 3000 out there and the Expert and some other little toy that Roby put up somebody was getting rid of, 6 meters, but haven't heard too much out there. And whoops, kill that. I don't know where it went. Sometimes, am I still sharing? Yeah.
So Ed, how often are you out there all the time, or you just go out there to operate?
I just go out to operate.
Okay, so
I think others would say the same thing. Does the XYL want to be out in the country?
NFW.
Yes. So yeah, there are times I just go out there myself, but
So the reason I asked the question is, so what's been your experience out there with disconnecting everything and grounding stuff so you don't lose everything due to lightning strikes? Because some of the guys sitting here listening have got a lot of experience, more than me, with losing stuff due to having lightning strokes take out stuff. So how are you handling that right now?
same way I do in Houston, just disconnect it. How is it going to go to ground if it's not connected?
So does anybody on here who's had these experiences want to comment to Ed about the problem of relying upon that alternative?
Disconnect. It's the only way.
Yeah, you just disconnect everything, pull a rotator wire out of the back of the rotator, turn off all the power.
Pull the power plug.
Yeah, well, you just, I mean, I've got individual surge protectors, just turn them off.
Anybody
Surge
want to
protector
comment
doesn't do
on,
any. Yeah,
anybody want to comment on the
Yeah.
reliability of surge protectors for that purpose? I don't think that's a good idea out there.
surge protectors are useless for a direct strike.
That's why I said pull the plug out of the wall.
So
They even have these things called, I've got one sitting over here, some sort of automatic antenna disconnect. It uses a couple relays with about an 1/8 inch gap. And let me tell you what, that lightning blew the F out of that thing.
right.
Which ones? Which
It's a
ones are those?
Paradan. They call a Paradan something or other. Paradan antenna disconnect actuator.
Oh, okay. Those are the expensive ones, aren't they?
They were like $100 a piece or something like that.
And they still got blown away.
Well, this one didn't, except it blew the end off the plug. But the other one, it just blew the smithereens out of the inside of it.
So let me suggest guys like, for instance, Kim is still on there. Kim's got a ranch with antennas out there in the middle of nowhere, and with a rig that he leaves unattended for periods of time. Kim, you and a lot of other guys in this club have that same story. What do you think is the best way of setting up something so when you walk out the door at the end of a weekend in your ranch QTH, what do you disconnect? What do you ground? What do you do so that when you come back a week or two later, the whole bloody thing hasn't been blown to smithereens? Kim, what's your opinion about that?
Well, I can tell you right up front that I have not encountered every possible type of failure in that regard, but what I do is I do not leave any of the equipment connected to the antennas. I have a pair of K3Ss and both of them are disconnected. If I'm coming back in short time, I put them in a separate enclosure in another room away from where the antennas come in. But I don't believe personally that there's anything that's 100% effective you're going to get some damage. And I've had lightning suppressors get basically welded to short with a lightning hit.
That's just for those lightning suppressors, quote unquote. They're just for high potential that's induced in the air, but direct strike, they're useless. You know, the whole thing is there is actually a way to protect yourself from direct strikes. I mean, which is obvious. There are lots of radio stations that stay on continuously during storms, but you can't afford what they do.
Yeah.
So,
I have lots of ground rods, 5/8 inch, 8-foot ground rods that are tied together with what's the name of that?
Cad weld? Yeah, me too.
But I'm not relying on anything. The stuff that matters, I disconnect.
Yeah.
So guys, I think this would be a useful consensus statement for you guys with antennas farms out in the boonies to put together a consensus statement about what would be best practices for trying to set stuff up so that it is minimally possible that you'll lose your rig. And I think that would be a really beneficial statement because there are a number of you guys who've got, rigs out there like Ed, out there in the boonies up on a tower sitting there waiting for the next storm to come through. And I think it would be very helpful if you could put together some best practices and put it out on the reflector, because even somebody with a small outfit could benefit from knowing what was really important to protect everything.
Well, that's why our friends up in the Northeast have published a big book on grounding and bonding.
And that's actually a pretty fair book. I've got it.
Well,
But-
okay, so let me weigh in again. So why don't you guys try? I don't have the book. I don't plan to buy it. Why don't you try to distill down that to something that says having a ham rig at a ranch outside of your normal place where you live in Texas, and what to do about the possibility of really nasty lightning. I think that'd be very, very helpful.
Why limit it to people out in the country?
Well, because you're from the Texas TDXS Society, for starters. If anybody wants to get it and then reprint it, fine. I'm just saying, take the bull by the horns. I sat down, I sat down for lunch on Tuesday noon with guys who've got a total of probably 1,000 feet of tower total, and probably 300 elements total, and they're all not where they live all the time, and yet they have to be sure that it's okay. So you guys know more about this than almost anybody else.
Unfortunately, we're learning every year.
Well, what I was doing was bringing it down to nested when I wasn't there, but that's still no guarantee you're not going to get hit by lightning.
True.
Do you have ground rods around the base of the tower?
Yeah, I've got one on each leg.
Oh, you need like 3 on each leg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have them 8 feet apart.
That's,
Yeah,
right
that's
on
the
the
way
edge.
to do it.
Right
Yeah,
at the
what
bottom of the
the-
tower, 8 feet out, I got another one. 8 feet past that one, I got another one.
Yeah. So I think what I'm just trying to summarize here is, I think you guys have a wealth of experience about this with big towers out there in the Texas Hill Country, where you see a lot of electricity go over a lot of times, and it just might be very helpful to try to point out what, if nothing else, what didn't work. I mean, because a lot of people go out there and they buy a little ranchette someplace, and they figure what the hell, I put up a 40-foot tilt over with a 3-element Mosley on it, and they put their radio out there, and they don't, they don't think they have any big deal. So you guys know a lot about that. You need to try to get that information out.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So could I help? Could I expect that there would be a manuscript on my desk by tomorrow morning, please?
No,
No, no.
Go ahead and expect it. You'll be disappointed.
it's kind of like expecting in one hand, you know what happens in the other.
You know, the other possibility, if you want to really, if I really want to get this rolling, I would suggest you put together a set of non-best practices, which outlined what was guaranteed to not work, and you would send that to the PVRC secretly, the PVRC and the FRC, and maybe the North Carolina Contest Club, and say, "Well, this is, this helps us a lot." And maybe if they put all that junk in place, they'd blow their own stations up.
Might reduce the competition a little.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Talk to K3LR about how they do grounding. It'll take
Well,
all evening.
Duffy's too busy running DX engineering. He won't care.
He knows what works for him anyway. I ran a drone up to the top of my big tower. That's what, probably it was 130 feet, taking a video in the 360-degree circle. And it really made me pucker up because my tower is at least 60 feet above anything else for 5 miles.
Wow.
So where's the lightning going to go?
Okay.
Unpredictable.
Wow.
Yeah, that's I think that's an important thing to remember. I mean, it's obviously not predictable, but it is certainly, to a certain extent, preventable, particularly if you say to yourself, well, you can, at least you can put in the first 90%. Like, for instance, somebody was saying, have ground rods around the around the tower, disconnecting everybody inside the shack and so on. I don't know what the best practices would be, but to do, out there, particularly if you got it outside of Houston, an antenna farm or anything like that, you guys have got a lot of that stuff set out there that's pretty pretty valuable, and it would do a lot of damage if if you got hit by lightning. I don't know, if you ask around the club, I bet you'll find a lot of guys, including Kim, who've had bad antenna strike experience. I think Chuck, you have too, right?
I think he's gone. Oh, he's still there. Well, Alan has some interesting experiences.
Yeah, I had about $50,000 in damage.
Well, that's nothing, that's if you're an attorney, so.
I'm not.
K5WA's had more strikes than anybody I know. The kind that, blow elements off of the boom.
Oh my God. Huh.
So out at NR5M years ago, I built a beverage steering unit, and it had a bunch of switches. We had 1,000-foot beverages going every, all over the place, and I built a box with a PC board that allowed you to switch, and it would literally steer, about every 45 degrees around the horn. But it had these little micro switches on it, and those beverages, which are not high in the air, got enough EMF induced in them years after I was gone, and blew the whole box. Just completely destroyed it, so it never worked again. So, you don't have to be high in the air. You just got to have enough aluminum out there getting set for the event. I've never had it happen to me, but then I've never had big deals. But out there in the boons, that's a real deal. I think it'd be very handy for you guys to try to put together some kind of a consensus statement on what would be the sort of best practices for the Texas Hill Country.
It's all covered. There's a couple of good books out there. It's all covered already.
Single point ground is the one thing I think is most important.
Yeah.
And you got to read the book on how that works, because it's how to protect all of the stuff that's connected to the electrical grid. Because if lightning gets into the shack, it's going to get to the electrical. When it gets there, you got to make sure that all the grounds elevate as the current dissipates at the same rate. If they don't, you're going to burn stuff up everywhere. I'm still working on that.
There's a lot of stuff out there that that John Q. Public would, namely John Q. Ham Public, would really like to know about, or at least be advised. It's like, for instance, Alan said, well, there's a good book about that. Well, I don't know what the hell that book, where do I get it? How do I know about it? Why, you know about it. Kim knows.
Up the Tower by W7LXC.
Well, thank you for
That's a great book. That's a great book.
You see what my point is, there's a zillion guys out there going to put up something. They don't know W7LXC from ham sandwich.
Well, now you know.
I'll write that down right now.
You should. And then, another great resource is a reflector called Tower Talk.
I now have nothing. I don't have to worry about it. But
yeah, there's a reflector called Tower Talk. And if you ever really want to get answers to your tower or antenna questions, that's the place to go.
Tower Talk.
Tower Talk. Too. You can go to contesting.com and there'll be a link to signing up for Tower Talk, and it is a great reflector.
I picked up a couple of little things there that I didn't get out of the books. With the things like, I've got all Philly strand running from the tower down to about 10 feet above ground. Then I transition over to 3/16 EHS steel cable to go to the ground and the turnbuckles. Why? Grass fire.
Yeah.
If I get a grass fire, it's going to melt my Philly strand and down goes the tower.
Well,
little things like that.
Yeah.
Kim, could you restate that? You said that the reason that you put in to terminating the Philly strand was so that if there were a grass fire, it wouldn't burn out the Philly strand. Is that correct? Is that what you said? Jeez.
So I have about 5 or 6 15-foot pieces or 18-foot pieces of Philly strand sitting around in my shack. Because I didn't figure that out until just after I put the other stuff in.
What size is it? I need some.
The Philly strand?
It's probably bigger than the size I need.
6700i.
I don't know. I need about 1/8 inch.
Oh no, this is like 5/8 inch.
Yeah, I figured that. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing, if you got, your coax cables have to be grounded properly too. You should ground them at the top of the tower and the bottom.
That's right.
I got it at the bottom. I didn't know about the top.
Yep.
Should be.
Every one of my feed lines, the shield is bonded to the tower right where it leaves to go to the boom of the antenna.
Should be.
I don't think he did that, but I know it's at the bottom with that. The DX Engineering's got a clamp with put two coax, put a feed through on it.
Yeah, that's what I have up top and bottom.
Is that your office or your shack, Alan?
This is both.
Okay, that's what I figured.
I'm looking at my shack. My office is behind me.
I'm missing a little bit here. So at the top of the tower, where the coax ends, and you've got let's say a UHF coax fitting. How do you ground that? You just belay that to the tower frame itself, or is there a wire that goes to the ground? And how's it connected up?
I use the tower frame, but remember too that I have a rotating tower with big 5/16 inch thick aluminum plates that the tower interfaces to the antenna on this plate. On that plate, I drilled a hole and I put in a 3-inch double female UHF connector with lock nuts on it so that it bonds right there to that plate.
And
So
there's
if
a lot of
anybody else-
hardware. There's a lot of hardware that DX Engineering and other people sell that make bonding to your tower very easy.
KF7P is a good resource for that.
Yeah, it's just a bracket, with a couple of U-bolts and an angle, and there's they have two on each. Just
Yeah.
put a feed through on it.
Sounds,
That's all I've got to say.
it sounds like a subject for another talk.
Oh, all of that stuff, yeah.
So
Thank you, Ed.
before we go,
Doug,
But to answer the question, yeah, I mean, I've never had such a good antenna, ever.
yeah, and I wanna add something. Ed and I have talked quite a bit because our places are relatively close together. And you know that I, as the contest coordinator or whatever, I'm well known for tracking scores. And I can tell you that Ed's scored his average score has jumped dramatically since he's put that new tower in, new antenna in. So it works well from an observational point of view.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Kim and Alan and the other guys, you can get a pretty good feel for the contest in the beginning with conditions like in the last CQ Worldwide. 10 meters has been open. I said, okay, well, not everybody wants to work a lot of JAs, but I bet you they're there. And I had the antenna pointed north, and within a couple of hours, you're in the hundreds by the time you start to crash to go to sleep. It's like, wow. I mean, there were so many Chinese stations coming through. I don't know that I've ever heard that many before.
And about half of them can't hear.
Yeah.
Bill Schmidt's contest station on St. Lucia had 3,999 contacts on CW to 10 meters. And you say to yourself, who was the guy sitting there at the operating table as the minutes roared down who said, we got to get over 4,000. So he got to 4,002, and I'll bet you then they had 2 dupes.
Yeah, he got over 4,000. He says, we made it. And he got 2 dupes and fell back to 39.9.
Right.
Yeah, Mark,
But they had 3,999 contacts.
now wait till everybody stops talking here for a minute, Doug. Doug, I invited a couple of my students, Noah, KC1NWN, and Aaron, K3THS. First time to a really big group. Seeing
Hey,
what?
hey, Noah, I can see you. Where are you now? Where are you located?
I'm in Burlington, Vermont.
Okay.
Cool. And who's the other guy, Mark?
Aaron.
Aaron, I'm here in Pennsylvania.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing? I'm Willie. I'm located in Beaufort, North Carolina.
Nice to meet you guys.
Welcome.
They
were really impressed
brag about our
by
station.
the presentation tonight.
I'm in Houston.
Okay, well, thank you, Ed.
Yep.
And I signed them both up for the reflector.
Great.
Great resource.
Hey, listen, so Noah and Aaron, let me give you a piece of advice. I've been around this bunch for a long time. Let me give you a piece of free advice. 90% of which you hear on here is absolute nonsense. And the other 50% is garbage, okay?
But don't be afraid to ask a question.
But if you want to know anything about DXing or contesting or a CW or whatever, this is the right bunch of guys to ask. So you ought to come on here and ask. I've been asking for a long time, and not one of them has ever given me a straight answer or a good answer. And I'm just saying that.
You couldn't handle a good answer.
That's why we banished him to North Carolina.
Yeah.
So before I log off, guys, I want to tell you about something that I bumped into on YouTube the other day, and I don't know how easy it is to pull up. It was a 1.5 hour interview with Don Wallace, W6AM, who owned 120 acres on Palos Verdes Estates. This big he bought the Press Wireless station at the end of west of Los Angeles, and he had rhombic antennas stationed every 30, I think it was every 30 degrees or something like that.
Wow.
And it's a 90-minute, if you guys probably know, for almost everybody with gray hair on here knows the call W6AM. He was he and another guy from the East Coast, W1FH, were the two guys who were the top of the honor roll for a very long time, from the time I ever got into radio in the 1950s. And this was an interview that some guys did from the Northern California Contest Club. They went out to Don Wallace's place and talked to him about his station and what was there and how it worked and why it was so good. And it's a long deal, but then they walk around and you get to see some of the antennas, and he looks out. It turns out in this Palos Verdes Estates, which he sold off over the years, but in that area, because he had managed to establish that there were no antenna restrictions down there on Palos Verdes Estates, which by the by was 1,000 feet above the Pacific Ocean, looking toward JA. I should excuse the expression, but and guess what? Within his view, he showed on this thing, there were 30 other hams when he got ready to sell things out. There were 30 other hams who had bought in, and he'd say, "Well, see over there, that's W6 so-and-so. Over there, that's K6 so-and-so." And the reason was there were no antenna restrictions. If you haven't seen it, it's really cool. He had rhombics every place.
I see Noah's posted a link to a YouTube. I guess that's that video you're talking about. Yeah.
It's a long video, but it's on YouTube. I just happened to bump into it, but I thought I'd mention it to you guys tonight because this guy happened to. So it turned out that he was a radio operator, and out of it comes quite a story about where all he had operated and who his background. In addition to the fact that he owned this incredible location that he bought from Press Wireless.
Okay, well, that's a wrap, guys. Thank you for showing up tonight, and we'll see you next month.
Yep. All right.
Good
job, glad to see you here. Hope you come by again.
Thanks. Thanks.
Mark, we also had Joe, W4YDL, check in.
Correct. He left earlier.
Okay, well, it's good to have you here, and we'll see you next month. Live.
Good night, gents.
All right.
And
See
keep
ya.
up that CW. You guys are both CW ops members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Number
good night.
477.
Hi, guys.
I'm
All right.